Welcome to Forum 360 on Fusion, your PBS channel and your Rubber City radio stations. We are co-sponsored by the Shaw Jewish Community Center. I'm Leslie Ungar, your host today. Campy Russell, Cavalier legend and now Director of Alumni Relations and the pregame and postgame guy, returns to Forum 360 for either his record-breaking 12th appearance or 112th. We are not quite sure. He continues the tradition with us of reviewing the past season and his perspectives on the current roster and upcoming season. Over those 12 interviews, I have asked some of the same questions about coaching, about drafting, about chemistry. Never before have we looked back on a season when the Cavs were minutes short of an NBA championship and asked the question, can we repeat? Campy, a Michigan native, played for Cleveland, the Knicks, made one appearance in an All-Star game. A very wise and articulate soul, whether he is talking about shooter-scorer or team dynamics. I look forward to his next pearl of wisdom, whether it is basketball wisdom or life wisdom. Campy, welcome.
Thank you again, Leslie.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, before I get any further, I have to ask the really burning question.
And that is?
My invitation got lost in the mail, but were you invited to LeBron's Halloween party where he dressed up and sang as Prince?
What?
Yes, you haven't seen?
No, I have not.
Anderson put it on YouTube. So
he dressed as Prince
and sang as Prince.
Wow, now that has to be really something to see.
It really is.
It's on YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
I have to make sure I see that.
Yes, you do. So
I didn't get my invitation.
Yours got lost with mine.
Exactly, but I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'm just checking, just checking. Now, I have to ask you, before we look at the past season or the current season that is now underway, why is a guy who grew up in Michigan and played for Michigan,
University of Michigan,
inducted into the Ohio Hall of Fame? And congratulations for that.
Well, thank you.
Why were you inducted into the Ohio Hall of Fame?
Well, I think a lot of that had to do with my body of work here in Ohio. I don't think that they discriminate on anybody just because they may be from Michigan or what have you. But I think I spent a lot of time here. I was drafted as the #1 draft choice here. And for the most part, I have spent a lot of my adult life here in the city of Cleveland, here in the state of Ohio. So I think that had a lot to do with it, and as well as my performance on the court, my performance in the community, some of the things that I've done over my span of now 63 years. And I'm really grateful to the Ohio Hall of Fame for inducting me as well.
Now, that kind of begs a question. You know, there have been many players since the 70s when the Cavs came into existence. There have been many players from World Be Free. I can remember World Be Free and the Brad Daugherty days and the Mark Price days. There have been many players that have donned the maroon and gold.
Mm-hmm.
You have consistently remained one of the most popular. What are your reasons why you have remained popular amongst a vast array of players?
I think for the most part, I can not just include myself, but I think I have to include Jim Jones, I have to include Austin Carr, Bingo Smith, and those guys as well. And I think a lot of that, Elmore Smith, I think a lot of that has to do that we were always a part of the fabric of the community. We were all very good basketball players, but I think we were all good people that is and remain now approachable, available, just the fabric of the community. So I think because people see us and have seen us for years, and we've always been out into the community and been engaged in the communities, I think that has a lot to do with it because, the basketball thing kind of comes and goes, but the person that you are in your heart and how people perceive you, I think those are the things that draw people to you and make people or put people in a position to feel comfortable around you.
Now, every generation of players in any professional sport say it was different when they played the game.
Yes.
What are some ways that it is different now than when you played the game?
I think the travel. without question, is probably the biggest thing in terms of we used to fly commercial flights. where we had to go and sit at the gate like everybody else. We had to be on the first flight out of town the next morning. Travel was definitely the biggest key. Secondly, I think is the popularity of the game and how the game has grown tremendously worldwide. You know, back in our day, it was primarily just here in the United States, but now it's a worldwide game. I think the rules have changed in terms of the center now have to get more out onto the floor, cannot guard the basket like a goaltender in hockey. And then I think the last thing is the overall speed of the game, and then the three-point shot has really become a big part of everybody's offense.
Now, if your body still cooperated, do you miss it in your heart of hearts? Would you still want to play?
Not at this time. I mean, to me, Leslie, I think all things are in time, and I had my time. And I think early on, when I was like probably in my mid to late 30s, I may have, still was, grappling with, I want to play. But after that, I would say probably 38, 37, I had come to grips with it, understanding that it's not about me. I've had my time, and the only thing I can do, and I've been blessed, Leslie, to still be a part of this great game of basketball, whether it's through working with the Cavaliers, whether it's working with Fox Sports and being involved in our pregame and halftime and postgame show along with Jeff Phelps. So I've been blessed to still be a part of this great game of ours.
Now, you're 6'8". Why is a 6'8" guy called a small forward? Because if you were a small forward, what's a big forward? As a mere mortal who watches the game but does not understand it like a player, why is a 6'8" guy a small forward?
Well, I think it has to do with the skill set. And what I mean by skill set, even though I was 6'8", and by the way, when I played, I was one of the bigger small forwards in the league.
Now, if you were playing today, what would you be size-wise?
I think I would still be what I was, which was a small forward at 6'8". But at the same time, because of my skill sets, I was able to play the 2 guard or the shooting guard. I was able to play the 3, and also I played the big forward. So I was kind of versatile in my skill set. So when you ask the question, how does a guy that's 6'8" play the small forward, a lot of it has to do with skill set. That is why LeBron James have the ability to play all the positions because of his great skill set. He can play the point guard because of his great ball handling, his speed and quickness, his ability to make plays for the teammates. He can play the 2 position because he can defend the 2 position. He's a great offensive player, a great defender. He can play the small forward because he's his overall game, and normally the small forwards are the guys that have an overall game that does everything on the floor. And then LeBron has the ability to play the 4, as well as probably even the center position. So I think a lot of just have to do with just
So he's kind of like Tom Brady. He could throw the ball and catch it. Right?
Almost. But LeBron is just an outstanding player, and his skill set is just off the chart, and we see it every night.
What advice do you wish that you had received when you were playing in the NBA?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think the biggest thing is to enjoy the moment, to enjoy it. And I think a lot of times, this is how I was at that particular time, is that I was just so caught up in just playing the game and not necessarily enjoying it. I enjoyed my teammates, there's no question about that, but just in terms of just kind of enjoying the game itself and I'll say in some cases even remembering some of the things that occurred. I was so focused in just playing that I didn't really kind of look around and smell the roses and that type of thing. I definitely have a lot of relationships with guys, but in terms of just kind of smelling the roses, I didn't really do that. I was just so focused in just playing.
Now, my last question before we turn to the past season, is there a current player who reminds you of you during your playing days, and why?
Wow. Well, I think the guy that kind of, there's a couple of guys. One, I would definitely say LeBron, but I definitely did not have the power and the athleticism that LeBron had. But in terms of the overall game, in terms of being able to put the ball on the floor, make plays for your teammates, being able to score the ball, being able to defend the ball, being able to play multiple positions, I think that's the comparison there. The other person would probably be Paul Pierce, who's now with the LA Clippers. And then one of the young guys who I really like his game is Kawhi Leonard, who's with the Spurs. Just a multi-dimensional kind of player that does everything on the floor and who's a great teammate. So those three guys are the guys that I think that is very reminiscent of how I played.
Today we are talking with Forum 360's favorite returning guest, Campy Russell, Cavalier legend. We are now going to take a look back at last season and a look at this present and upcoming season with our Campy Russell, pre, post, and halftime guy,
Yes,
if you
for
watch
Fox
it on
Sports.
TV. If you're like me and you're sitting on your couch instead of in the queue watching, then you see Campy. So the Cavs, you go back to over a year ago, about 15, 16 months ago now. The Cavs hire a new coach.
Yes.
LeBron comes back.
Yes.
Anderson's out. K-Love is out. Kyrie is out. Does the Larry O'Brien Trophy go to the team with the most players still standing?
Well, I think, and if you look at the history of it, the team that traditionally have the best health in terms of who's healthy and who's playing at the high level, those teams generally win it if they're there. I mean, if you just go back and look at it, we had some unfortunate things that occurred to us in terms of those things you just talked about, in terms of Kyrie being out and Love and Anderson. And those things happen in sports. But I don't think you can take anything away from that Warriors team, because they were truly a very good basketball team. And at the same time, they were healthy. And that's a key component in this league.
So besides, and some of Forum 360 viewers might have gone with us when we did the tour of the practice facility, when the practice facility was new.
Yes.
But in addition to the state of the art and how much they think about what they eat, what they put into their body, how they work out, is there anything, is it just luck? Is there anything else that can be done about those bad breaks?
There's nothing. I just think it's just something that happens. You know, I mean, you can eat all the best food, you can do all the exercises, you have all these treatment centers and all that, but it's really, in some cases, just boils down to just plain old, I'm going to use the word stupid luck, that everybody was able to get through the season and that everybody is playing at a high level. And if you have the health and everybody's playing at a high level and everybody's connected together as a team on both ends of the floor, you put yourself in a position to win a world championship. And if it wasn't for those three guys not being a part of that, there's no question in my mind that we would have won a world championship, even playing against a very healthy Warriors team. If both teams are there healthy, I would have to still go with the Cavaliers. You know, not because I'm here as an analyst and I'm a Cavalier fan and all that, but personnel-wise, we had all the pieces.
So let's talk for a moment about chemistry, because you talked about all the pieces. By the end of the season, it was kind of a ragtag team that went through the playoffs, but certainly one that seemed to have chemistry. What are some of the things that you, as a former player and now as an analyst, know about a team and its chemistry that we just don't know?
Well, Leslie, I would have to back up a little bit. When you say ragtag, I think that's a kind of a negative connotation.
I don't mean it as a negative. I mean it as a not planned. That was not the starting 5 or 6 that was planned at either the beginning of the season or the beginning of the playoffs.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that's what I mean by ragtag.
Right,
they really had to kind of go as
Yeah.
the games went. They had to keep, kind of like our GPS recalculates, they had to keep calculating.
Well, or calibrating or what have you.
Yes.
But in that case, when you look at that, and just based on how you said this, we started off badly early on because of a lot of different things, new coach, new system, LeBron James not playing at his capabilities early on because of some nicks and those type of things. and we struggled. I think everybody saw that we struggled. I think when we took on 3 acquisitions, Timothy Moskoff, Iman Shumpert, and J.R. Smith, I think that kind of put us in a whole different frame of mind.
Why?
And, well, because when you look at Shumpert and you look at J.R., those 2 guys are outstanding basketball players. They're scorers. They bring toughness. And more importantly, they can defend out there, meaning they can defend the wing. And one of the issues that we had as a team at that particular time is we didn't have enough guys that was athletic enough that can defend the wing, that also had size. Then you added Timothy Moskoff, who is 7'1", who is very athletic. He's a force around the basket. He runs up and down the floor. He's very athletic for someone that's 7'1". So when you added those 3 guys into the mix, that's why all of a sudden we took off, because now we had all the ingredients that we needed, which was size, more speed on the floor, and guys who were willing to defend at a high level as well as score the basketball. And that's when things kind of took off for the Cavaliers.
So I'm a big Blatt fan.
Okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
I know that you're a statesman, and I couldn't get you to say anything bad about anybody anyways, but give us, as an analyst, what grade would you give David Blatt for his first season?
I think it was a learning season for David. And I think I got to say it this way first, is that I think it was a learning season for him because, one, yes, he's been a coach for a lot of years.
Even though he said he wasn't a rookie coach, he was an NBA rookie coach.
Well, he was a rookie coach in the NBA.
Yes.
Was he a rookie coach? It was his first rodeo as coaching at the professional level? No. But the NBA I believe, is a lot different, and the nuances are a lot different. The skill sets of the teams are a lot different. You're playing multiple games within a week's time, and so there's a lot of elements that you have to come to grips with early on. So from that perspective, I look at Coach Blatt. I would probably give him, I would say probably like maybe a B, because again, he made some adjustments. When the personnel got better, everything got better. I think now Coach Blatt has a better understanding of his personnel. I think the guys now have bought into his offensive system, his defensive system. They have a better feel for him, and he has a better feel for the players. So all those things are coming together. But as a first-year coach here in the league, in our league, it's always a big adjustment. And the key is, how long will it take a coach to adjust? And I still believe that Coach Blatt is still making adjustments. And the thing is, the good news about him, he is a willing guy to be able to make adjustments, and he understands it as well.
Now, we see him on the sidelines, and it doesn't matter whether it's the first game of the season or the last game of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He's standing there with his arms folded across his chest. You don't see any emotion. Have you ever seen any emotion around the practice courts or pre-game? Have you ever seen anything differently than we see?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even during the course of the games. He's an emotional guy. He's a tough guy. He's an emotional guy. But I think, like all of us, no one really wants to see us in that mode, but sometimes it's a necessity. And I think Coach knows when to use it and when not to use it. And I think that is probably one of his assets, is understanding when and when not to interject that kind of emotions into what's going on. But truly, he is a very emotional guy, and he's a hard-nosed guy, meaning that he's going to demand a lot from his team.
Good.
A lot.
Good, good. I wish some other coaches of some professional teams in Northeast Ohio felt the same way, not mentioning any names, the Browns. On the one hand, the Cavs are now familiar with what it takes to get to the finals. On the other hand, players say that we mere mortals, again, don't understand how hard it is to repeat, even to repeat to get to the finals.
Yes.
Remind us, briefly, how hard is it, and your thoughts on that?
Well, I just think it's just one of those things that if you're blessed to have the right chemistry on your team and the right talent on your team, and you go and you're blessed to get through a 82-game schedule and then start into the playoffs, and you play your way to a finals, I think that's a great blessing on both teams' part. Now it comes down to which team is whose team is healthy, and what level are they playing at? Are they playing at their top level, or they are beginning to ascend to a different level because of whatever's going on with the team? So when you look back at last year, truly not having those top three guys was it. You know, I don't care how you look at it, that was it. And having all those guys back now with the addition of Mo Williams, RJ, Richard Jefferson, I think those two guys will definitely add a lot to our team, and then having Anderson back healthy. I just think right now, when you look at this Cavalier team, we're in the best spot we can possibly be in. The chemistry is there. I believe we have two solid teams, particularly once Shumpert and Kyrie gets back. We will have two very good basketball teams. We're going to have our starters, and then we'll have our second team that will be high-powered, both teams. And I think when those guys get back, we're going to be a team to reckon with for 48 minutes. And I think Coach Blatt is going to have a situation that he's going to be very comfortable in.
Now, in the remaining moments, we have like 3 minutes left to look at this season because it goes by so fast when I get to talk to you. How do you, when you're watching the game, are you watching it as a fan or are you watching it as a player?
I think both, but I try not to get emotional about the game. I just try to look at it how I've always looked at it, and for the most part, it's just for what it really is. So I try to look at it with both hats, but more importantly from an analytical standpoint of just looking at the game and what occurred and what are some of the things that occurred during the course of the game, and what are the things that we are very good at, and then what are some of the things that we are trying to build towards.
So in my first interview with you, 12 or 112 years ago, you differentiated a scorer and a shooter. So I'm going to ask you, in the time it takes to walk across a small room, tell us what a shooter is and what a scorer is.
Very simple. A shooter is, and the best example I can give you is a person similar to Curry, who's with the Warriors, outstanding shooter. Scorer is someone, I'm going to say, like Kyrie, who can get baskets in a lot of different ways, whether it's at the free throw line, whether it's at the rim, whether it's from the three-point line.
So name me two shooters on the Cavs team right now.
Shooters on the Cavaliers team, I would say, was J.R. Smith. There's no doubt about that. He is one. And then I would say probably Joe Harris. The rest of those guys are pretty good scorers.
They're scorers?
And they can shoot the ball, but I would say scorers. They can get their own baskets.
Now, in another one of your visits here, you talked about at the end win-loss record would depend on how curious players besides LeBron were about how much better they could be. So can you name us a player who you think is curious?
I think, for the first time, we have a lot of those on our team. You look at, I can go down the lineup and look at all these guys, whether it's Kevin Love, whether it's Mo Williams, Kyrie, Andy, our whole team, to me, are guys that are always trying to continue to get better and to do whatever is necessary to get better by putting in the work and taking on information that requires that taking on additional information and take it and use it in the correct way. So to answer your question, we have a team full of guys that are very curious and they want to get better, and they demand more from themselves every single night. Okay, in numbers only, give us the win-loss record of 82 games. I can't give that, but I would say we're going to at least win at minimum at 55 games. And preview the playoffs. I just think that if everything is if everybody's healthy and we're playing the way we're capable of playing, and we have those two distinct teams that I just talked about, we will be there in the finals, and we will win it.
You heard it here.
They ain't healthy now.
We will win it. I say it each year I interview Campy, Cavalier legend. He is wise and articulate. You now have a cheat sheet. Now you have an understanding of what to expect this season. Remember the points that Campy talked about with curious and shooter and scorer? We do know that regardless of the outcome, Northeast Ohio is better for having the Cavaliers, and today, of course, we are better off for having Campy Russell. You better be all in. Thank you for joining us today.
Forum 360 is brought to you with support from Electric Impulse Communications, Kim and Harvey Nelson, Rubber City Radio Group, Acronist.com, AkronBuzz.com, Medical Mutual of Ohio, Forum 360 supporters, and the Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron.